This is, as I think we mentioned last time, to be a limited partnership, and these are all the partners. And the two general partners will be George Steinbrenner and me. I think perhaps the simplest way to begin this is for me to read you the name of an identification of each individual, and I'll ask each one to stand for a moment so you can identify him directly. Let me start off with Mr. Jess Bell, who is president of Bonnie Bell, Inc., and lives in Lakewood, Ohio.
Steamboat Springs, Colorado.
And also Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And there's a reason for that. He's also a major sponsor of the Olympic ski team and sponsored the Davis Cup tennis team. Jess? The next person on the list, which you'll be given, actually isn't here, but because his daughter's operated on today. But it's Lester Crown, who's president of Henry Crown and Company of Chicago. As you know, his father owned the Empire State Building at one time, and he has widespread interest in all kinds of fields, does Mr. Crown. The next person is Mr. John DeLorean, vice president of Car and Truck Group, General Motors Corporation of Detroit, Michigan. And one need say no more than that about John DeLorean. Next person is Thomas W. Evans, who's a partner in the law firm of Mudge, Rose, Guthrie, and Alexander here in New York City. Tom. The next is an entry. It's one partnership with two parts to it, if you will. Mr. Edward Ginsburg, senior partner of the law firm Ginsburg, Gurin, Merritt of Cleveland, Ohio, and Mr. Sheldon Gurin, president of the U.S. Realty Investments Corporation of Cleveland. He will be, in fact, the active participating partner in that entry. The next pair of names, again, is an entry. Mr. Edward Greenwald, partner in the law firm of McCarthy and Greenwald of Cleveland, Ohio, and indeed his partner, Dan McCarthy, partner in the same firm. Where's Dan? Here, Mr. Dan McCarthy. The next person is also absent because of some heavy oil goings on in some part of the world, Mr. Nelson Bunker Hunt, managing director of Hunt International Petroleum Company of Dallas, Texas. Next is Mr. James M. Niederlander, president of the Niederlander Theater Corporation, who is well known to all of you in New York, obviously. The next person is Mr. Francis J. O'Neill, Steve O'Neill, retired chairman of Leaseway Transportation Corporation of Cleveland, Ohio. Mr. O'Neill. I should say parenthetically that Mr. O'Neill, as some of you know, is a part owner of the Cleveland Indians Ball Club, but will be divesting himself of those interests in proper time. Next person is Mr. Marvin L. Warner, chairman of the Marvin Warner Company of Cincinnati, Ohio. Has widespread real estate interests and is a major horse breeder and a number of things that he'll tell you about himself directly. The next person, and this is the added starter I mentioned happily, is Mr. Gabe Paul, whom all of you know for a long time. Gabe also is divesting himself of his interest in the Cleveland Indians and will join the Yankee organization in a major post. Gabe.
Let me reiterate one point that Mike made, and it's a very valid question. Why so many? Why so diversified? Well, take, for instance, John here. Can you imagine the number of decisions he makes per day and running General Motors with the other executives there? And this goes for every one of the fellows here. We are in it as sportsmen, but I wanted to be sure because it's important to me, it's important to all of us, and it's particularly important to New York and to the Yankees that the group that gets behind the Yankees at this point have the wherewithal and the interest and the diversity to get the kind of job done that the sports writers, that the fans, that the city and the media in New York deserve. And we tried not to let any stone be unturned in putting together that type of a group that might, I think, clout in various areas and ability to help in various areas when called upon is important. I think the diversity of this group is a plus. Very much a plus for the Yankees, and I think it's going to prove out to be that way.
It is a team picture. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. As George Steinbrenner and I told you last time we met a week ago, we would bring all of our partners together today and introduce them to you, and they are indeed all here, even with one added starter. Afterwards, you're obviously free to ask us or them any kind of questions you want to put to them. Twice before. And that's the lot. And we will entertain any questions you might like to put to any or all of us. You want to pass the Yankees for a very long time indeed. I should introduce, where is Bob?
Bob's right here.
Bob Niederlander, Jim Niederlander's brother, is here as well. He's not an active partner, but he is certainly a partner in spirit, and a member of the law firm here. You have any requirements, any of you photographers? Or?
Oh, yes, we'd like to get the whole group.
You have to hit the whole group. Well, you tell us what you want us to do, and we'll do it. And we can break up here in a few minutes after they get their pictures, and you can have a shot directly at all of these individuals whenever you wish. The last few days, so we haven't really worked that out. Pardon me? Yes, of course.
I figured all that up. This morning I signed some papers. Prepared.
Could you answer over here, please? Thank you.
Signed papers. A release from my contract with Cleveland. These were signed in Cleveland by Mr. Maletti. I also signed other papers in relation to my stock. I was at the Commissioner's office this morning, and we have a complete understanding on how my stock is going to be handled, and it wasn't until an hour or so ago that I was completely free to become associated with the Yankees. And in the second part of your question, when this was offered to me, and incidentally, Mr. Steinbrenner and Mr. Burke, they're both friends of mine. And when the opportunity presented itself, there was no way I could turn it down. But well, I should explain that a little bit. I would have had to turn it down if Mr. Maletti hadn't been McPhail.
Yankee organization.
Like that.
Anyone else?
Mike Burke,
Yes.
with such a diverse group of owners, explain why.